Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September 2024. I hope you're well and apologies for taking so long to get this to you, life stuff. Anyhow, what do I want to say to you? Right, before we begin, because this is the Night Sun Tarot, and as I've mentioned before in other videos, it sends the AI bots frothy because it contains graphic nudity apparently. If there is a point where it seems like there may be some graphic nudity showing up, then I will cover up the card, just so you know that's what I'm doing. If my little dog comes to sit on something. Other things, there will be an extended at the end of this reading. If it resonates with you and you would like to go deeper, that's available to you to access at the end. It is the first link in the description box. Second link in the description box is to my private community. That is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. There you can get access to all of the extended content for not just your sun, moon or ascendant, but your sun and your moon and your ascendant. So if that sounds like it might be something that is interesting to you, oh, I mangled that sentence, you know what to do with it. Let's get on with the business in hand. I'm actually just going to sit my little dog there and get straight in with it. Could I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please? Whoa! Am I going to take all of those? No, I am not, but I am going to show you what they are. We've got the 7 of Swords, the 8 of Swords, and the 9 of Wands. And I do feel like for you that is some sort of breakthrough energy. The 7 of Swords can sometimes talk about self-deception, but certainly in this case here it feels like a resistance to potential that you are aware that you have, but for whatever reason you haven't quite nailed something, right? The 8 of Swords is the not quite nailing something, whether it's fears that are coming up, surfacing, and we've got Venus in Aquarius here, right? So it's possible that these are things of, what is valuable to you, what is the value that you bring, and that resistance being, I don't know what it is, but at the same time the 8 of Swords representing it being the way that you are thinking about this situation, right? And it being a push through moment, because we arrive at the moon in Sag swiftly afterwards, which feels to me like mastery of your emotions. Not repression of your emotions, but mastery of them. And there's something so expansive about Sagittarius energy that when we move away from this very fixed and very rigid way of approaching our emotions and we let them flow through us as they are supposed to do, remember that you are not your emotions, and so on and so forth, right? This mental restriction that's stopping you expanding in the way that September seems to be suggesting is on the cards for you, right? We've got some sort of big breakthrough moment here. So I am actually going to put these back into the deck because I do look at that Wheel of Fortune. That's a Sagittarius card. I'll do that again. I'm not taking 3 cards at once. That's ridiculous. Play that Sag, please. Oh, there we go. So we have got the Ace of Cups in the recent past. Current energy for Sag is Knight of Pentacles, and what's coming towards Sagittarius for September, 7 of Pentacles and the 2 of Swords. And that's a really profound message right there. I just come out in goosebumps. The Death card is at the bottom of the deck. We're talking about transformation. We're talking about change. Given the 3 cards that we've already looked at, right, and see where the point of resistance is on this, I say that I feel very strongly that this is something that's going to pick up a pace, but first it's necessary to address what it is that's holding you back first. And as we're aware, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you're going to know that that is some sort of internal situation, and here we have it right here in September for you. So let's just get these cards out. I'll give those a quick shuffle as well, get some clarifiers on the table, and then we'll launch into it. But I do feel like there's a way that everything changes in September that is not of the nature of drama in the way that, as Sagittarians, you might be perhaps used to things changing, but it's got a deeper, more foundational quality to it. So rather than you climbing a tree, by swinging from branch to branch and just kind of hauling yourself up, This is creating a platform. It's a little bit more work, but it's worth it in the end, because it feels to me like moving from this platform gets you much, much further than from starting at the ground at the bottom of the tree. Now, tell me about the Ace of Cups, please. Why is this here for Sag? Well, we've got the Queen of Cups, which is Cancer energy. There. Let's get this. And the Ace of Wands, beautiful. Tell me about the Knight of Pentacles, please. Why is that here for Sag? Six of Wands, that's Jupiter and Leo. There's Jupiter again. And whoa, good Lord, Sag, what the fuck? I'm getting goosebumps all over at this point. Right. Tell me about the Seven of Pentacles and the Two of Swords, please. Page of Cups, again, addressing the emotions. Nine of Swords, Eight of Wands. And the Knight of Pentacles is again showing up at the bottom of the deck. Quick nudity check, maybe. That just needs to sit there for a second. Right. Okay. This is one of those situations, Sagittarius, that, like, when we were looking at the time frame of this energy, let's start there. When I say recent past, I really am talking about the last month, maybe at the outset 6 weeks. But I could also be referring to this morning when you got out of bed. It's going to be different for each of you, and you must take it as it resonates to you, right? You'll understand the time frame better than I do. So this is the starting point, and this is as it's kind of projecting out in front of you. This is one of those occasions where, in retrospect, you see how it is perspective, perhaps, internal misalignments, maybe even as far as internal dysregulation, but I don't feel like that applies mostly for Sagittarius at the moment. It's just the thing that you don't see, that's showing itself in September. It's asking for some sort of effort that is put into that. If only the effort to understand what it is that is going on with you at the moment, so that you may progress past it. I'm really actually quite pleased to see the Knight of Pentacles showing up here twice, because it's, you know, chop wood, carry water. We're back to that kind of thing, and how that was an incredibly important thing for you to learn to master over the course of the last year. I know it's not been easy for a lot of Sagittarians, or it does not speak to your superpower, which is the pivot, but there have been so many occasions, it really is in the last year, where you've been required to kind of dig in where naturally you might have pivoted away from things. And I really do think that it's exposed a level of strength and depth in you that you had not appreciated about yourself before. You know, there's a difference in being self-confident and knowing that you can do something, compared to a situation that does not seem to want you to be able to move in any way. And you're like, well, I don't really want to face this thing in front of me. And then you do it and you burst through it. Like, there's no way that that doesn't level people up. And you've been on this consistent leveling up path for some time. So I'm just pausing here, Sag, because I'm sagging a little bit here, and I'm trying to take in the big picture. But I feel like what is important for you here is the detail of things, whilst also, if at all possible, keeping a hold of the big picture. Let's start over here, and I'll bounce backwards and forwards as necessary. But remember that what is underpinning everything is deep transformation of circumstances, of emotions, of self-awareness, even perhaps, you know, spiritual stuff as well. What do I mean by that? Well, some of you might be in for not a dramatic spiritual awakening, but a surprisingly non-dramatic internal awakening that is perhaps just putting spotlights on doorways that you didn't know was there. And I feel like everything around you is preparing for this point where you recognize this, and then you take the opportunities as they present without any fear or overthinking. Sag, know what you like. When they when they show themselves to you. The other thing to mention just before we start over here is that eclipse season starts very soon. I forget the date and anything actually even remotely useful at this point, other than October the 2nd is a date that is flagged in my head for something. Now, I'm assuming that's going to be a solar eclipse in Libra, and the partial Pisces eclipse, lunar eclipse, is going to be happening before that. The important thing to recognise, though, is that the energy of an eclipse can be felt sometime beforehand. So you might already be feeling this, or it might be that it's not kicking in until the end of September, but certainly by the beginning of October you will be feeling something going on, right? Some sort of shift, some sort of change. And my favourite astrologer, Mr. Austin Coppock, has referred to this eclipse season as the scalding hot soup. So I think we can expect things to be very fizzy and very dramatic outside, and that is why we have to lean into what is solid and what is strong inside. Right, with all of that said, now I've been blathering on for 10 minutes. Let's start over here. We've got the Ace of Cups with the Queen of Cups and the Ace of Wands, and I think for most Sagittarius there has been well, the Ace of Cups is about your relationship with yourself, right? Sometimes it's about a new relationship, the inception of a relationship with new people. But I kind of rally against that as an interpretation, because for that we have the Two of Cups. There's partnership, there's alignment with another. For me, the Ace is all about some sort of internal emotional relationship with self that then sets the standard for how we want to be treated by the rest of the world. It also sets the standard for how we intend to treat other people too, right? When you think about all of those people out there, and there are many who absolutely fucking hate themselves, they don't let people get close to them, they don't let people love them, they let to push them away. So what we've got here is the notion of a relationship with self being what has been really important, even if that's not really what you've been focusing on. Because the Queen of Cups is about taking this into ourselves, like it says Cancer energy, and it's enormously receptive. And it's like what you feel about yourself is actually what you are able to put out there. Now, it could be that there has been some shifts and some, I would say it would be a deepening of a relationship with someone else. But it also could be the possibility of questioning whether there is something off about the way that you feel about yourself, and whether by extension then you're not giving all that you could in a healthy way to those people that are around you. You might simply have been thinking about the nature of love and emotion and receptivity, not just yours but other people. Like, these might have been themes that have been rolling around for you for quite a while. But the Ace of Wands and the Ace of Cups are both energies of initiation. Something has already been set in motion, whether through your feeling, whether through your thoughts, whether through your actions, or whether just, everything that I've been talking about that you seem to have been rolling around in your head. It's sort of like the necessary steps that are required for you to move to the next level of something. But it's all pretty abstract at this point. This is the thing that I find really interesting about this Sagittarius, and in some ways that really does play to your strengths, because you are the philosopher of the zodiac, right? It is about that expansion of an embracing of the best version of ourselves, and by extension then the best version of humanity, of society, of whatever it is, right? We're really talking about the aspiration toward the ideal, and I do think that motivates you really strongly. And rather than getting disappointed about other people's shortcomings, being much more focused on your own self-improvement and how that changes the nature of things around you, right? Because Jupiter expands and it flows, and whatever emanates from you goes outwards that way. Now, when we come into your current energy, like I said, we have that Knight of Pentacles, and he's over here too. This is representative of Virgo energy. And we will spend most of October, I'm time traveling already, most of September in Virgo season. I don't feel like it's a reference to that. But what I do feel is that whatever has been a rather abstract consideration or an abstract philosophy or even an abstract how do I make these big ideas express themselves through me in a tangible way, they're getting a kind of grounding here in September. Now, I've already spoken about the chop wood, carry water, and I feel like that's a lesson that Sagittarius has truly understood the value of. And I do believe to some degree or another you have incorporated that into your day-to-day. That is just part of what you do now. And that discernment to be able to choose between whether this is a pivot situation or whether this is a dig-in situation has been immensely valuable in terms of levelling up already what it is that you're capable of working through. But what I find really, really interesting is this Six of Wands and this Ace of Pentacles down here. Right, we've got the discipline, we've got the commitment, we've got the persistence and the stamina, but also the attention to detail of the Knight of Pentacles, right? Nothing passes by the very watchful eye of the Knight of Pentacles. He is the knight that you would give things to if you really wanted to make sure that whatever task you gave him was seen right through to the end, right? There's a methodical aspect to this card. There's a methodical and highly scrutinizing energy to the Knight of Pentacles. And here he is, showing up with an ace. Now, this is an opportunity. This is a big opportunity. It is perhaps an opportunity that is financially related, materially related. Quite often when the Ace of Pentacles shows up, what we're being presented with is an opportunity to improve our material circumstances in some sort of way. So it becomes associated with, you know, the opportunity to move house, move into a better material environment, going for a promotion, going for a job, right? It's like the potential is there, but it's not yet realised. It's going to take some effort from you to invest into it in order to achieve that. And the Ace of Pentacles for me really is about where your attention is going at any given point. Now, what I have a funny feeling about, and the thing that I'm finding really fascinating about this, is the nature of this Six of Wands. Now, a rather flat interpretation of this Six of Wands would have us thinking along the lines of conspicuous public success, right? It is Jupiter, it's in Leo. Leo is associated with kind of, you know, the center stage, the performative, you know, all that sort of stuff. And we see here he's clearly coming back into the city after something, I don't know, like a battle, yeah, some sort of sports event, something, right? And then the Jupiter aspect of this is kind of enhancing it. It's blowing it up. It's making it even bigger. Therefore, people can see that you have succeeded at something. But I get a really funny feeling when I'm looking at this Six of Wands that that's the aspect of this Sagittarius that is throwing up somewhat of a trigger, if I can put it that way. I'm not sure trigger is necessarily the right word, because it certainly has an emotional weight to it, but it's an agitation. Now, the Six of Wands is a wonderful card. I love this card, but by definition it requires you to be seen. And there's some sort of opportunity here for you to be seen, rather, you know, perhaps as an expert in something, perhaps as just somebody who has an opinion on something, perhaps as somebody who is, you know, an up-and-coming star in whatever situation you find yourself in. And there's something about that makes me feel like you are kind of internally kicking against it somehow. And I want to put some extra cards here because the Six of Wands, I actually get a bit of a gnawing in my stomach as I'm looking at it. But it's here with the Ace of Pentacles. And do you remember what I was saying about that platform? I had this feeling that, you know, rather than going from the ground and climbing the tree, right, we're creating a platform. Maybe there's even a really pretty tree house somewhere up here in the tree that allows you, from a standing start, to be able to project yourself even further than you would ordinarily, which is, let's face it, canny high. Tell me about this Six of Wands. Where's this here for? Oh. Oh, well, that makes things very interesting indeed. It's the Justice card. Fucking hell. Give me a second. I'm going to rescue that card off the floor. Now, this starts to make things look very interesting indeed. We have the Justice card, we have the Four of Pentacles, we have the Two of Wands, and we have the Ten of Pentacles. Again, this sense that something has been set in motion. And this agitation that you feel emotionally or mentally, but I feel like it's an emotional reaction that you're having here in some way or another. This being set in motion such a long time ago. Now, this could be, right, for example, it's probably not a perfect example, but it's the best one that I can come up with. One day, in the middle of fucking winter, in the Yorkshire Dales, I had with my little infant daughter in the car, as she was at that time. I think she was only about 18 months old. I'd gone to the school to go pick up my kids. Now, in rural North Yorkshire, in the north of England, it gets dark at 4 o'clock, so bear this in mind. And I picked the children up successfully. I put them in the car, and then I tried to start the car, and would it start? No. Like, it would not start. I picked the kids up at 3:30. I was still sat there at 4 o'clock. And this car just would not start. There was just nothing. And it, you know, I'd driven there. I'd been out of the car for all of about 4 minutes, and then there was just nothing. And in the end, with the snow coming down as it was, and pitch black, freezing, with 3 kids in tow, I walked to my local garage. It was about 3/4 of a mile away, up a hill, of course. And knocked on the door and said, please help, to the mechanic. And he was like, don't you worry, we'll go have a look, we'll check it out. And he said, go sit in the office. He said, there's somebody up there already, but go sit in the office, it's fine. And, you know, warm yourselves up. So we went and sat up there, and there was a chap who I vaguely recognised, and he was the father of a child that had gone to my kid's school. And they'd emigrated the year before. And he was actually back in the UK because he was trying to sort out getting their house rented out to new tenants. And I went, oh God, I wish I'd known that you were looking for tenants in there. I'd have taken it like a shot, because we'd all been looking for something bigger. Our house just was not big enough at that point. And he'd already got tenants in. He'd just been wrapping the whole thing up. And I thought no more of it. You know where this story's going, right? So in the meantime, the mechanic comes back with my car. It was a random thing. You used to have to press a button before you turned the key, and the button had just gone kaput. I jumped in the car, thanked him very much, gave him some money, went home. 8 months later, I go to pick my kids up from school, and the secretary comes out waving a piece of paper. And she said, you lucky cow. And I went, what have I done? And she said, I've just had this person on the phone. She also knew who it was because she was the secretary of the school, had known the department. They want to rent their house out to you. And I was like, what? And it was his phone number in France. So rang him that night, and sure enough, we ended up renting that house, and we stayed there for 5 years. God, yes, 5 years. And my other 2 children came around. Now, the point of this story, and the reason why it applies to you, Sagittarius, is because without that flippant comment that I'd made there, and at this point I have to say it was relatively flippant, because I was poor as shit. There was no way I could afford that house at all. Would have loved to, but couldn't afford it. By the time that phone call came in a year later, my husband and I were getting ready to go to uni as mature students, and actually there was enough money coming in between us that we could afford that house. That flippant throwaway comment was an act of manifestation that I did not realise had set something in motion, because it took best part of a year to come in. The Justice card here is saying there is something that you have previously invested in, whether it was by way of flippant comment or some sort of action, an act of kindness, something from the past that is coming in. And I think genuinely, Sagittarius, I think it's cashing out time, or cashing in time. I don't even know how you would describe it, right? Because we've got the Ace of Pentacles and the Ten of Pentacles arriving swiftly, one after the other. We've got a potential, right? This is the platform that I was talking about. This is the springboard. You already put the work in to create that. It's coming back around. But something about this is going to push you higher and more visible and more scrutinized, possibly even, than you possibly had anticipated happening. And this is leading to this. Now, the Four of Pentacles being here is also an interesting card. It's interesting that I picked up the Triple Goddess deck rather than any other, because the depiction of the Four of Pentacles in here is very, very different to what you would usually see on a standard tarot deck, right? Instead of this message of being clamped down on emotion, right, or on the pentacle rather, not letting things go, not letting things flow, sometimes called the miser card, right? And that's worth bearing in mind, right? So just utterly clamped down. There's a free movement. Like she looks to me like she's in the act of giving that pentacle to somebody else, because the three that are on the floor are just held very lightly next to her. There's no clamping down. There's no foot on each pentacle. This is mine and nobody else can have it. It's like it's a freely given thing. And this is why I think for some of you, it's that that it might have been a kind act or a kind word or something that you said in the moment that really stuck with someone, that is coming around again, and you are being presented with not just an opportunity but a decision that must be made. Because something about the way that you are currently constituted, there we go, Sagittarius, whilst built for opportunity and taking advantage of opportunity and all this sort of thing, there's something about the nature of this opportunity that seems to be digging you right in the gut. There's something kind of confrontational about it, not in terms of it being an aggressive or a violent thing or anything like that, but we're back to this. There's something about the way that you see yourself, the way that you perceive value, the way that you take things in and the way that you give things out, the way that you are seen, that is coming up for reassessment, transformation, a do-over in some way or another, because it's designed to take you to the next level. But in order to get there, there is something that you need to give away from yourself, something that you need to let go, something that you need to just relinquish your grasp on. And like I said, it feels like it's something weird that's coming up from the depths that feels personally confrontational. Oh my God, loads of people are going to see me. Oh my God, loads of people are going to know what I'm doing. Loads of people are going to be able to scrutinize my level of knowledge in this area or not. You know, particularly if it's, for example, some sort of promotion or a job opportunity that sees you working at a much higher level than you have done before, right? And scrutinized to a level that you have before. What we've got here, it actually feels to me, Sagittarius, is the movement from being a big fish in a little pond to a big fish in a big pond. The reason why that's significant for you is because in the example of that, most fish with a big enough body of water will, well, not most fish, I know fuck all about fish, but I know that there are certain types of fish where their size, their growth is contingent on the body of water that they're sitting in. So there's a kind of fish, I think catfish, right? You keep them in a you know, moderate sized tank, they'll stay at a certain level. You put them in a pond and they'll get bigger. You put them in a lake and their growth will just keep on going and going. Legend says there's a 7-foot catfish in one of the lakes near us. So you don't swim. 7-foot catfish. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But it's that sense that in order to get to the big lake, you're going to have to put your heart in your mouth and go, I trust myself and I'm going. Even if even if it leads to increased scrutiny, even if it exposes you and makes you vulnerable. I would say in this case, especially if you feel vulnerable or exposed by the opportunity. Now, when we come into September, it's kind of like a restatement of the things that we've already been getting at here, because we've got the Seven of Pentacles and we've got the Two of Swords, and what these two cards have in common is they are talking about something that is going on internally. And that, again, is extremely specific to this deck that I've put up here, because the Seven of Pentacles in a different situation, in a different deck, would not lead me to this position that I'm at here. It is because Fabiola Strani has taken each of the 7 pentacles and placed them across the chakra points on the body. Chakra. That's the way you're supposed to pronounce it, by the way. I saw a video of an Indian lady getting very cross, saying a chakra isn't a thing, a chakra is a thing. Paying attention. So, these are across all of the points of the body, the major energy centers of the body. Now, the original meaning of this card still holds true. We have Saturn in Taurus, and so we're talking about, you know, the amount of investment that we have put into building something. But also the realization that something isn't quite right. Now, that generally will show up in an environmental sense. Something in your environment is just not kind of working the way that you want to. Maybe you don't have enough money coming in. Maybe, you know, maybe there are more bills coming in than there is income, stuff like that, right? You're kind of looking around and looking for some way to change the situation that you are in. Something about it is not bringing in the yield that we would hope that it would. By placing these pentacles where he has, what Fabiola Strani has done is really focus the mind on the fact that it is the alignment and the open action of these pentacles, these energy centers, these chakra, these point of drive that dictates whether we have the power to change a situation for our betterment, regardless of what it might, you know, expose us to, or whether we don't, right? Ultimately, everything comes down to an alignment or a misalignment somewhere. Because if everything's aligned, you're not afraid, you're confident, and you know that you can manifest. You put yourself out there. If there's anything that's coming up that feels resistant, this is pointing to something within you that is out of whack. And so it's about bringing that together. That's this card here. Two of Swords always means an internal thing for me, right? It's the thing that you don't see, the thing that you don't know about yourself, and about the way that your mind works, and the way that you know, and potentially things that you're afraid of. Sometimes with this card, I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that our mind, recognizing this as a threat, goes, I'm not even going to see that, I'm not even going to pay any attention to that. And what are they standing in front of? An egg. This is pure potential, Sagittarius. This is next level stuff. This is the platform that I'm talking about, and the height that it can take you to if you are willing to go there. And the resistance to going there is an expression of this fear of being seen, or fear of success. Could even be fear of money for some of you. You're like, oh, I don't know if I can earn that much money and feel good about that. And they, you know, and we're coming back to this here, because the money that you earn is an expression of how you feel about yourself, right? It's no mistake that when your relationship with self improves, generally your income improves too. Right? Those two things are extremely closely related. So September is all about the revelation of what it is that is stopping you, blocking you internally, what's out of alignment that's stopping you from getting here. Because this is being offered. Like I said, everything in the background has been positioning itself, waiting for you to be ready to accept it, ready to push out of the pond and into the lake, so that you've got an opportunity to expand in the way that you love to do. But the big fish in little pond won't do this anymore, right? You've reached maximum potential where you are, and it's time to shift. Now, I'm not saying that all of you are going to be, moving house or changing jobs or anything like that, but the key thing is the resistance. What is the opportunity that's coming up, and what is it asking from you? Why, as an extension of that, does that give you the EBGBs? It's the EBGBs that we're focusing on. Page of Cups, Nine of Swords, Eight of Wands. The Nine of Swords here is quite clear, right? We understand exactly what this is about. And, for those of you who are not familiar, we have this sense of a loss of perspective, things that we're anxious about, overthinking, insomnia. A good way of describing this card is if you were to wake up in the middle of the night, as you were trying to go back to sleep, what would it be that was on your mind? What would you be thinking about? Because quite often that is the energy of the Nine of Swords there. Now, more than that, we see that these 9 swords are placed horizontally on the wall. They're neither up nor down, as they appear in the rest of all of the tarot cards. Right? The other 77 cards, no, however many swords cards there are, but you see swords in major arcana cards as well, like the Justice card here. Generally speaking, at least with the older decks, there seems to be an arbitrary rule of swords up good, as in Ace of Swords, King of Swords, Queen of Swords, all that sort of stuff, and swords down bad. Like I said, it's kind of arbitrary, it's not carried across all decks. But it is exceedingly unusual to see these swords stacked horizontally. For me then, what we're looking at is a situation that changes depending on the mindset that enters the room, right? So if you're expecting to be butchered, and you see swords on the wall, you're like, fuck, something really quite awful is about to happen to me. However, if you walk into a room and you know that somebody's about to show you their antique sword collection, seeing them on the wall is not a surprise at all. Right? It's all about perspective. For me, the Nine of Swords and the Nine of Wands, any card numbered 9 in the minor arcana, is about how you manage whatever suit they represent. So you got a hold of your actions, right? But also your emotions, because the moon in Sagittarius with that Nine of Wands that we saw originally. Here we're talking about how far can you control your mind, right? How can you stop things from spiraling out of control by recognizing what the actual issue is, and that is just a little bit of transit anxiety about moving from big fish in little pond to big fish in big pond. Because the benefits increase, but the risks also increase too. I really do feel, though, for all of you, you are big enough now to be able to deal with whatever else is swimming in that water. Let's put it that way. And that, let's say it from Dune, right? Fear is the mind killer. This is what this is talking to, right? There's something here that's kind of bringing up, whether small but deep-seated fears, or something that is a little bit larger that's saying, no, we don't want to be seen, we don't want to be too successful, we don't want to be earning too much money, because that would not feel good for whatever reason for us. We perceive it as a threat, maybe we're going to walk away from this. That's not what this period's about here for you. It's about getting yourself in position, getting a run-up, and really throwing yourself forwards. If you possibly can. We've got the Page of Cups, engaging with your emotions, right, on a new level here. I think Sagittarius, you have done so much work, not just in the last year, but actually in the last few years, in recognizing where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and actually really leaning into what your weaknesses are to give them the same amount of attention. It's like when you're at school or in any field of anything. Actually, this is really good advice for everything. The thing that you are worst at is the thing that you want to put the most effort into. Right? You might be naturally good at a particular thing, but really fucking awful at this over here. And we want to keep moving towards the things that we're naturally good at. when actually what you want to do is kind of put a bit more effort into the things that you're bad at. Try drag that up a little bit, right? That creates a very nice round, well-rounded person. In some instances, you can actually put so much effort in that you exceed, results that you get in the things that you're naturally good at, so that you come to love the thing that you weren't very good at. An example that comes immediately to mind for me is sparring. Like, when I used to train at the gym, I hated it, really, really hated it. And my instructor started doing separate sparring sessions. I want to go. I was not interested in doing that. And then it just occurred to me that I wouldn't get any better at it if I didn't do it. So I forced myself, and within 2 or 3 weeks, it became my favourite thing. It really did, to the point where I would have been quite happy to drop the classes just to focus on the sparring. These sorts of things are coming up here, and I'm throwing in all sorts of examples. Like I said, this is a reading that feels like it jumps around a little bit, because I feel like you may be jumping around a little bit on whatever opportunity this is for advancement. But what I want you to do is recognise that this is simply a part of you that you haven't had an opportunity to really engage in dialogue with properly up until this point, that's asking to be heard. And you can hear it, but also tell it to sit the fuck down, and we're actually doing this thing, right? Whenever these fears come up, it's a part of us that's asking to be heard. Right? And the more that we ignore them, the louder they tend to get. What it wants to be is acknowledged and reassured, and then shown that it's okay. Your subconscious, your nervous system, it can all step down because you're cool with what you're doing now. Like, this flare-up reaction in some way or another being the thing that's trying to keep you in the little pond. We don't want you to be there. So hear it out. Hear what it has to say. Don't dismiss it. Don't disregard it. Take it seriously. If necessary, if it helps you kind of contextualize this feeling, do lean into where it came from. Right? And it might just simply be the connection is all that you need in your brain. For others of you, it might be discussing it with someone that you trust carefully. Like, I've got this feeling and it's a little bit, but I think I've tracked it back and it comes from this point here. Sometimes just the articulation of it out loud is enough to excise the devil, right, of this particular situation. And then we have another Sagittarius card. What is that? Mercury in Sagittarius, maybe? I can't remember off the top of my head. There. This talks about incoming communication, but in your case, it looks like arrows that have been let fly coming into land. In some ways what we were talking about here actually being what is truly being shown here, right? Focus more on the Ten of Pentacles as the outcome, right? But it's the idea that you can let arrows fly, almost oblivious, actually, at this point, at some point in the past, whether as an act of intuition or just simply an expression of your character. And at some point, these will come into land again. This is what is happening here. Now, the only thing that is going to stop you shifting into the lake, shifting into the bigger space where you can expand it even more, is some sort of imbalance inside of you, some sort of emotional response, something strangely confrontational that you're just being asked to get over in September, so you can make that move, you can make that leap. And we're talking about wholesale, deep psychological transformation. For some of you, the fact that Pluto has moved back into the sign of Capricorn being something that is really significant here. I mean, it depends on what your ascendant sign is as to where Pluto is sitting right now, but he's come back out of Aquarius and he's sitting on the 29th degree of Capricorn, which is the most powerful degree, the destroyer degree, for 79 days. We're already several days in. There's an opportunity here to let go of anything that might hold you back. I mean, I don't see this being the sort of thing that you would need to engage with on the daily, because whatever leap it is that you're about to make, I think there's enough redundancy into the space that you're moving into to say that actually you can probably just grow at your leisure in that space. We're not going to have to go out into the open ocean from here. Like, what you need will be taken care of, at least for a few years, in this space here. But you need to allow yourself to take the leap. It's like you need to allow yourself to reap the rewards of what you previously sowed. And any resistance that's kicking up is part of an old story. It doesn't get carried forward. This is really interesting, Sagittarius. I might make it, I might title the video something about reaping what you've previously sown, or something like that. So I'm going to go to the extended now. You're very welcome to join me. You can do that either on Vimeo, first link in the description, or Circle, second link. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your bag, that's fine. Just take with you from this reading that wherever the resistance is, or wherever the doubt is, or wherever the even a kind of creeping fear is, that's where you want to be flinging yourself, because the crossing of that threshold represents the transformation. And truly, this is about reaping what you have sown, and sown in a good way. I really do feel that. And I think the enormity of what's coming back is probably the thing that is freaking you out the most. That's it. So, know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.